All right, hello everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Today what I'm going to show you is how to do the math, and I'm going to do a little diagram for you to show you how to figure out how many stitches to cast on your needle in order to make sure that you have the right length and width when you're done with your project. So for example, if I was going to make a 12-inch by 12-inch baby blanket, then I would want to know how many stitches I need to cast on my needle in order to equal 12 inches. Now I could guess, but I'd probably be wrong. And so I'm going to figure that out first by determining that this is the length and this is the width. So the first thing that I'm going to find is how many stitches I want to cast on, because casting on is going to equal the width of the blanket or the width of the project. Okay, so the width is the number of stitches that you're going to cast on. And then the length is the number of rows that you're going to knit down off your needle. Okay, so this number is most likely going to stay the same unless you're knitting like a hat or a sweater or something like that. And this number can vary in the project depending on how long you want it to be, or how many multiples of the pattern you need to do in order to make this happen. So then the first thing we're going to do in order to find out how many stitches we need to cast on of our yarn in order to get 12 on the final project is we're going to come over here and take a look at the yarn itself. And these two skein of yarns I pulled out because I wanted to show you two different weights and two different labels. So all the information we need to find the answer to this is right here in the label. And this information is standard. So you're going to see the weight of the yarn, the knitting standard information, and then this one over here is a single needle, and it has a hook on the end. That's a crochet needle. That's a different process. We don't do that than what we do, and so we're not going to use any of the information in this box. But this one that has the X in it, those are two knitting needles. This is the box where we're going to find all of our information. And then also standard, here it is again on every label. Even though it looks slightly different, information is all the same. So here we find the weight of the yarn, and then we find the information for knitters and information for crocheters. Okay, we're going to start up here. So this yarn is bulky. It's a number 5, and you may have seen this already on some of your skeins. The practice yarn you knitted with is a number 4, which is medium weight. And that just means that the yarn itself is a slightly heavier gauge, so the diameter of the yarn is a little bit thicker. This box here is going to tell us all the information that we need to know in order to figure out how many stitches to put on the needle and what the project is going to look like when it's done. So what is standard is that a 4-inch by 4-inch swatch is always the size they use to determine the rest of this information. And you'll see that down here, a 4-inch by 4-inch swatch. Okay, and then this is the different information given a medium weight yarn or a number 4. For our purposes and our yarn, what we're going to find is that within a 4-inch by 4-inch swatch, 4 inches long is going to yield us 16 rows, and 4 inches wide means that we have to cast on 12 stitches with number 11 needles. 8 millimeter is the metric. US number 11 is the standard, and those are actually the size needles that you have at home. So if you look at the top of your needles, you'll see that it says both of those numbers, one on the front, one on the back. It's the same measurement, it's just that one is metric and one is standard. Okay, so if you knit 12 stitches on number 11 needles, that's going to be about 4 inches. And what will also happen is as the needles change in size, as they increase and decrease in gauge, the number of stitches will also change. Okay, so here, for example, we see that within a 4-inch swatch, here we have the medium weight rather than the bulky. We're going to end up with more stitches in the 4-inch swatch and more rows in the 4-inch swatch than we did here with the heavier weight. So there's an inverse relationship here between the number of stitches in rows and the weight of the yarn. That's because a smaller gauge yarn is going to yield a smaller knot or a smaller stitch, and so you can fit more of them in the row itself. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of the math, and I'm going to show you a diagram in order to explain this to you visually. You don't have to do this diagram, but here's Oliver. He is going to be my camera holder. There you go, Oliver. Hold that up for me right here so we can do our swatch. Okay, so remember we're doing a 12-inch by 12-inch baby blanket, but right now what we're going to do is we're just going to draw out that 4-inch swatch so that I can show you where those numbers come from in case you were finding all of that a little bit confusing or your head was spinning from all of those numbers and dimensions. So we're just going to draw it out so we can see this. Now, you don't have to draw this diagram every time you want to decide or determine how many stitches will fit into your project. Down here. Good. But I'm going to show you how we get to this number before we do the simple math, because it's really actually very simple math. Okay, so here's my 4-inch by 4-inch swatch, and sometimes even when you go into the yarn store or the art supply store, what you're going to find is that hanging from the racks where the yarn is, they have these little 4-inch swatches of a specific type of yarn knitted out for you so that you can feel it and see what it looks like. And it's always 4 by 4. Always. It's standard. So I did it again, upside down. But let's just take our basic information inside this 4-inch swatch. We are coming over here to use this number 5 bulky yarn in a 4-inch swatch. We're going to get 12 stitches across and 16 rows. So what that's going to look like, about a little higher, is that we're going to get 12 stitches across the row. And we're going to have 16 rows below the needle. Now I'm doing it kind of upside down because actually what you would see is that the needle would be up here, and as you knit each row, this length would grow under your needle. Okay, up a little higher, Oliver. Just stay still. Okay. So what this is going to look like is 12 stitches on this 4-inch width is going to be 8 inches on either side, and then 3 inches within each of these sections. So this is just easier for me to show you that each one of these stitches is going to be about this big. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 stitches in a 4-inch width. And then over here, this is the number of rows that I would need to knit in order to make the length of the yarn in 4 inches. And so Same thing, what I'm finding is that would be one of my first rows. Here's 8 inches on this, 8 stitches on this side, 8 stitches on this side, because this time, remember, I'm going to get 16 rows. And then if I divide that up, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay, so then let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 rows. Up. Stay here, Ollie. Okay, stay right there. Okay, so then that's how many rows I would knit in order to get a swatch that would be this size. Now, the math is actually pretty easy. Come over here, Ollie. The math is actually pretty easy for this, because what you're going to see is that I'm just going to do a simple cross multiplication. Hold it up. Okay, so if I can get, right, so my question is, therefore, if I need the blanket to be 12 inches across, how many stitches do I cast on? Okay, so the math is pretty easy. If I need the blanket to be 12 stitches wide, and if I get 12 stitches in 4 inches, then what I want to know is, oh, bless you. Okay. What I want to know is how many stitches do I need to get 12 inches? So we just do a quick multiplication, and we see this is 12 times 12 is 144, divided by 4 is 36. So what that tells me is that I need to cast on 36, down here, look. I need to cast on 36 stitches on my needle in order to get, a little higher, in order to get a 12-inch baby blanket. Now, my needle is not 12 inches long. See that? My needle only fits about 8 inches worth of stitches on it, but that's okay, because what's going to happen is when I'm done knitting, these are all going to kind of spread out. They're going to spread out more than I can spread them out on the needle, because I know, based on the math, that I am going to end up with a 12-inch blanket. Okay? All right, so there will be my 36 stitches of this number 5 bulky yarn. And now I'm just going to continue. I can also do the math, or I can just continue to knit until I get a 12-inch, until I get enough rows that equal 12 inches in length. Okay, so there we are. There's your math and your diagram. And let's thank Oliver one more time for holding the camera and doing such a great job for me.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hope you're well. Knit those baby blankets if you haven't already.
I don't have a baby.
See you soon. You do have a baby blanket. Okay. Bye.